Do you know, sometimes bonsai definitely throws you a curveball. And yesterday I came out and the foil had come away from this beech, which, as you know from several weeks ago, I'd given up on there being any roots. Well, do you know what? We're in, what's about the 5th, 6th, 7th of October. As far as I'm concerned, we're bedding down for autumn, winter. And air layers and air layer separation is the last thing I'm thinking of. But do you think there's something I can do about it right now? Or should I wait till next year? Well, we're going to explore that, if you want to hang around. Hi, it's Xavier and welcome to my bonsai retreat, and I promise you this is definitely going to be a short one, but as you guessed from the intro, I was a little bit surprised because this beech has reacted contrary to what I'd thought it was going to do. I'd given up on it. As far as I'm concerned, air layer separations, you're really starting to push your luck if you're moving definitely into October, heading towards November even. Well, we're not that late. And yeah, I pulled the old foil off and lo and behold, well, I can see an absolute conundrum of roots. So what can I do? Well, I could do what I did last year with my hornbeams. That worked out fine, and I could leave it right through the winter and then reassess in the spring, or indeed as I did with those in the sort of August, September time. They all rooted, they were fine. But you know what? Sometimes you look at the weather forecast and you think to yourself, has it got vigorous roots? Because if it's got vigorous roots, maybe if we're not going to get super cold frosts or temperatures like that, I could actually risk separating. Or a variation of that. Anyway, we're going to explore that briefly with these beeches, and let's see what I come up with. Now, the first thing we've got to ask ourselves is at what stage is the actual tree itself at? And when I do that, I look at the leaves, and you can definitely tell with the beech, probably 95% of them have already got that slightly crisp, burnished look. So that tells me it's starting to run into dormant stage. But we have still got leaves that have got the yellow stroke orangey look, which tells us there's still some photosynthesizing going on. And that's good because that means it's still grabbing energy and pushing it into the roots. So I've got to weigh up a risk versus reward, basically, or a gain type benefit. And there's no easy rule book. I can't whack into ChatGPT, if I separate my air layer now, will it survive? You know, you've got to know your local conditions. The fear is if I leave those roots there, which I can see, and there's lots of white tips, that actually, if I leave it through the winter, I may end up cooking off or freezing some of those tips and actually causing a lot of risk to this. So do I, one, separate it entirely, get it into a pond basket, or two, go a bit halfway, and instead of actually separating, because as I understand, there is still some benefit from the actual central core of the main trunk that is working with either the water distribution or bits and pieces. To what extent, I really don't know, but I do know that if I leave it attached and perhaps whack that around it, load of soil and just take the plastic off, it's the best of both. Still attached to the tree, but I'm actually going to give the roots a chance to spread out and perhaps create a lovely amount of roots ready for a really safe transition and separation in spring of 2026. So full cut or this? Well, the only way I'm going to know the answer to that is to really assess just how many roots we've got in there. And I think that for me is the overriding factor. So first of all, let's cut these tie downs. And don't mistake me, I'm absolutely over the moon when I saw these roots. And I'd rather have this dilemma than the dilemma of a failed air layer. So let's open this up and see exactly what lies under the plastic hood and whether there's enough rootage there to drive the demand, small that it is, to keep it through winter. Because what I'm hoping is that we've got 2 weeks at least of 16°C weather through the days. Wow, we've got a nice spread by the look of it of of brown. You see the white tips there? I want to be careful with those. Around here, they're coming down there. Now, this is absolutely fantastic, but what I don't want to risk is almost causing a repeat of the issue that I'm trying to eradicate in the first place. And obviously I've got these roots that are coming down like this, and what I don't want to do is have these being so stiff and hard that they in essence are going to do the same thing. I'm going to carefully tease away, and I'm very good at teasing, so we'll just take a little bit and just see what we've got in here. Yeah, I'm ecstatic that we've got this root base, but I just want to try and free it a little bit. And again, I'll say to you, this is the time to be very, very patient. So let me keep working there, and then I'll come back to you, because I think if I can just keep these away just a little bit so that I can slip that round. Okay, I'm not going to do anything more with that. I'm happy that I can certainly just lift these roots away and up a little bit, which is hopefully going to work in favour. Possibly, well, it's still going to be a narrowish pot, but I think without it being constricted by the plastic, there's a chance that the roots over the next 3 or 4 months will actually be able to do a bit of work anyway. So that is going to sit around that. I've got my usual soil mix, which is probably 50% pumice, zeolite, and then what I have done is I've got some of the previous sphagnum moss that I've used from Airlayers earlier. It's all washed, but nice and clean. But I do find that sphagnum, if you're ever in doubt when it comes to separations or emergency repots or anything like that, I just find if you whack some sphagnum moss in there, well, it's a bit like giving it a bit of cough medicine. It seems to do some good, and I'm sure it tastes great as well. And obviously what I don't want to do is break the roots. It says, look at those roots, just trying to avoid breaking them. We'll get them in there. Okay. And it's a pretty messy process, to be fair. A very messy process. Now, one thing I have is I can't leave my fingers under there for the rest of winter, or they'll freeze off. So I want to be able to lift it high enough that it actually rises above the level of where the root plane is. So I'm just going to need to jam something while I get that sorted properly. And we'll just balance the rock there for now. Now, for those of you who are hoping to see me struggle with getting this one set up in place, then sorry, but it was a little bit of a awkward moment trying to get this done. If it's just a bit of cable, wire going around there holding that in place. And then all I've done now is packed more sphagnum at the top here, and see how this works out. And I'll say now, I do this and sort of say to you sometimes, you know, you take your chances. I think this has got a better chance being done like this than separating. But equally, I spoke with Yella, and he says if he sees roots, he gets it out, and then all he does is he makes sure that where it's stored is protected, or potentially in a cold frame, or the leaves off, even in a cold garage. And certainly with the amount of roots I had there, that was an equally attractive option. But for now, we'll see. I'll keep this one like this. I think what we'll do with the other one is we'll separate it, and then we can compare and see what was the right decision. Now this one, as I say, I'm going to treat differently. I haven't yet decided. I may actually leave it on over the winter, or indeed, bear in mind that all of the green leaves are down here, which is on the growing trunk. This is all browned off at the top, suggesting that's pretty well gone dormant. Depending on how many roots there are in there, I may actually do a full separation. Do you know what? I've got a load of footage of me doing this, which I know you haven't seen. So rather than go through the same thing with this, why don't you hit subscribe or bell notifications? Because this will be a brilliant time lapse, probably end of February, early March, when we may or may not do the separation repot and have a look and see how this did in comparison to the one you've just seen. That could be good. Definitely a good reason for you to hit the bell notification. So rather than spoil the surprise of what exactly I can see right now, which will obviously help steer my decision, why don't we pencil this in our diaries for 2026 Xaviers Bonsai Retreat. Just to further encourage you to watch that time lapse next year, I'll show the results and what I do with this in that time lapse video. So we'll get an overall roundup. We can do a bit of comparison between how the roots are with one that's kept on the tree, with one that, well, we don't know, may or may not be separated, or maybe just left as is. And I think that'll make for interesting viewing in 2026, and certainly something to put in your diary. As for this, I mean, look at that. I think that is going to be a beautiful, beautiful tree, and we can finally get rid of those horrible roots. But don't be surprised if we get some little shoots or something coming from that root mass, which could then in turn make for a very, very interesting, I don't know, a beech end? Who knows? Other question? Probably people are asking me, do I need to cut this back right now? And the answer is no. It's been growing roots no, it's been growing roots quite happily. It's pretty well gone dormant, so we're not going to be looking to get any additional flow going up. It's all coming down. So I'll leave that as it is. In terms of storage, I've got a nice fence over by the cold frame, which I feel certain it'll be happy with. In terms of the risk of it getting flooded or too soggy, well, there's loads of holes in the bottom of this, free draining soil. I have no fear of any rotting of those new roots. So I hope that you will be as curious as I am as to what happens to that. Now come on, that was short, and that was hopefully sweet and informative. And I think the thing I'll say to you is always be ready and prepared to make decisions that are sometimes out that window. I mean, Yella often talks about being able to repot right through. I don't know when his limit is, probably around about now, because we have still got a lot of decent weather. We have still got roots that are growing. No, it's not in the prescribed bonsai books. No, it's probably not the number one choice you might make. But never ever rule out these options, because what I've just done there is actually pretty safe, and I'm very, very certain that I'm going to get the results from it. And equally, I'll tell you what, I could definitely have taken a cutter to that and separated it. I have no doubt it would have been just as fine. So, yeah, really happy. Anyway, if you want to see another video about these beeches and how we got to this stage, that's the video to watch. Otherwise, happy bonsai and God bless. Cheers.